Hello and welcome everyone to another Anime Secrets gaming video. Today we've got a very special topic to talk about. Special as in it's one of the few days of the year where everyone gets online and either complains or agrees with what they feel is the game of the year, which is the nominees have been shown for the 2023 Game Awards. This year is probably amongst the most competitive years I have ever seen in a video game calendar release window. There have been an extraordinary amount of games released this year across all platforms throughout the year. It has just been insane how many games have been absolute bangers this year. You know, there's like 3 other years that I can think of off the top of my head that I can remember being this crazy. 2017 was one of them, the Switch's first year, which coincidentally enough, we had a Mario and a Zelda game up for Game of the Year that year as well. 2011 was also pretty insane, and then one that I wasn't really into gaming media back then because I was like 7 throughout most of the year, was 1998, one of the greatest years of all time for video games, and this year I think can definitely rank up amongst the best ever. It has been insane. But here are the 6 nominees that they have for it: Alan Wake 2, Baldur's Gate 3, Marvel's Spider-Man 2, Resident Evil 4 Remake, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, and The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. I have played 3 of these. I don't have a PlayStation 5, so I've been unable to play Marvel's Spider-Man 2. It is on my to-do list. Like, this and Final Fantasy 16 will be the first games I pick up when I go get a PS5, maybe this holiday season. We'll wait and see how some things turn out, but Resident Evil 4, phenomenal game. Mario Brothers Wonder, from the little I've played of it, it's a lot of fun. And Tears of the Kingdom, another phenomenal game. From what I've seen of my friends playing Baldur's Gate 3, I've had a blast, and I can't imagine it not being a blast. From what I've seen, nothing but high praise for it. Baldur's Gate 3 and Tears of the Kingdom are the 2 highest rated games at 96 on Metacritic and OpenCritic, and Alan Wake 2 just coming out of nowhere. Phenomenal storytelling from the first Alan Wake game, great performance, good technical design all around. I can see why this is up. So these are the main, or this is the main category, and it's pretty nuts. And we'll just kind of briefly go over the other categories here. So game direction, basically, it's the same way as directing in a movie. Basically, how you take the vision of the game and then you kind of put forth on it. How do you do the design? How you do direction, all that. Solid choices here. I think the only one that I would maybe take out, Spider-Man 2, and by extent you could potentially take out Tears of the Kingdom, but I think what they did with Tears of the Kingdom with the building and the underground more than warrants its inclusion in here. Mario Brothers Wonder, the trippiness of it, the level design has been absolutely phenomenal. Baldur's Gate 3, again, same thing from what I've seen. What they were really going for with the CRPG, with the kind of D&D aspect of it, really good. And then Alan Wake 2, very, very, very solid game. And if it's not on Epic Games, if it wasn't on the Epic Games Store for the moment, I would be on this game right now as well. Best narrative, aka best story. I don't really have a horse in this one because I do not know too much about the stories here. Like I said, from what I've seen in Baldur's Gate 3, it's fun. Have not played Alan Wake 2 yet, but if the story is anything like the first one, we're in for a good time. Phantom Liberty, I've heard nothing but praise about. Final Fantasy 16, also a lot of really good praise for it, and same with Spider-Man 2. I don't know if there's an odds-on favorite. I mean, if we're looking at odds-on favorite in terms of what could potentially sweep, Baldur's Gate is the one you'll be looking at, but I don't think it's it should be heavily favored in almost all of its categories. So it's kind of a wait and see, but God, out of everything I've seen though, That's a tough one. I'll actually start getting some of my votes here. You guys will see kind of what I am voting for. We'll post it on the Twitter. Close. And we'll save Game of the Year here for the end. But best narrative, part of me is really voting for Final Fantasy 16 because I want that game to succeed because I love the cast and everyone involved in it. So we'll go with FF16, even though like I probably shouldn't be voting on this because I don't know the narratives on these. Art direction for creative or technical achievement in artistic design and animation. No disrespect to any of the other ones here, but I love the style of Hi-Fi Rush. That was like, oh man, I loved it. It was great. I gotta go with Hi-Fi Rush. It was good. It was really good. But all these are great. Wonder would be my runner-up on that one. Score and music. I've heard the score for Final Fantasy 16 and it is freaking majestic. Shout outs to Soken, who was able to, or Masayoshi Soken, who composed this while recovering, or who scored and composed this while recovering from cancer treatment. Just the absolute strength and tenacity he had to be able to do this. Like, sentimentally, I'm rooting for him. It's a good score. The one thing I am upset about here for score is I think you can take out Tears of the Kingdom. And I don't want to judge too harshly on the other scores, but Tears of the Kingdom or Baldur's Gate 3, I think you can take one of those out and replace it with Octopath Traveler 2, because that to me was the best score I've heard all year. It's a shame that game did not get nominated for anything. Like, that is one of my bigger snubs for this year. Audio design, Hi-Fi Rush is really high up there, but for me, I really enjoyed the audio design in Resident Evil 4 Remake. Just like the way the villagers, everything throughout the game, the sound of the guns, when the score kicks in certain sections, and again, for me, it's just like all the background sound that's going on when there's no music playing, the eeriness of it. That's what I would give it for Resident Evil 4. The one snub for this one, for me, would definitely be Armored Core 6. I feel like that one should have been nominated because the sound for that is just, it's so top notch. Best performance. I've heard Idris Elba, really good. Have not played Star Wars Jedi Survivor yet. That's one that I kind of forgot about that came out this year, and that'll be something I'll talk over here towards the end once we get back to Game of the Year, because that's going to be a big theme for this year, just to kind of show you just how stacked this was. Yuri, my friends have told me, knocks it out of the park, especially during the midst of basically the symbiote arc he has. A lot of people have been fans of Asterion from Baldur's Gate 3. Again, have not played Alan Wake 2, so I can't judge Melanie LeBird. But my vote goes for Ben Starr. The voices I've heard, or the clips I've heard of him as Clive, are just like great. He's got a freaking sexy voice, and he's a Final Fantasy VIII fan. That automatically got my vote. Doesn't matter how good the rest of them were. FF8 fan gets my vote 100%. No questions. Next up here, the innovation and accessibility. So this is like games that make it easier for people with disabilities or, a little bit troubled things to go through. I'm sure there's a lot of other ones on there, but for me, I want to give credit to what Street Fighter 6 did. Definitely, but can't discount Spider-Man, Mortal Kombat, I can't really. Again, I'm not I'm not a good judge of character when it comes to this one. So this one's kind of gonna be gonna skip it because I can't really talk too much about what they've done for accessibility because I don't really know too much. The only thing I really know is Street Fighter 6's how they do the modern controls. It makes it easier for people to get in and play the game. Games for Impact, A Space for the Unbound. This is a really good game. Basically, it's telling the story of how this person grew up in 90s Indonesia. It's a beautiful game. I would definitely recommend this one for people if you haven't played it. I have not played Chants of Sennaar. Goodbye Volcano High is a game that came out this year. I remember when it was getting just absolutely brutalized during the PlayStation 5 reveal, but I'm glad to hear it had a decent launch. And these other ones I have not played. I've heard of Venba, but I've not been able to play it. But I did play A Space Unbound. That one was good. Best ongoing. So out of all these, it's hard for me to vote for Cyberpunk because base Cyberpunk was just rough for me. I'm happy that the work has been done for it to come back, similar to No Man's Sky. It's just that rough experience, but you know what? If No Man's Sky had the comeback that it did, I'm gonna go with Cyberpunk. I'm happy to see it finally succeeding. Phantom Liberty is tempting to hop back in, but I was at such a high level. I don't know if it's gonna be like tough for me to go or worth it for me to go in because I might just be able to clear everything quick, and I really don't want to start from the beginning. But you know what? For the comeback support and everything, gotta give it to that. Community support, I'm gonna skip this one because I'm not too familiar with it. Independent game, Sea of Stars. If you're a fan of Chrono Trigger, or 90s JRPGs in general, go check out Sea of Stars. That game is phenomenal. Absolutely loved it. Also shocked this wasn't nominated for Best Score. Best debut indie game. Company's first outing on there from all these that I've played, which is just 2. I would give it to Pizza Tower. It was a nice WarioWare, or not WarioWare. Bleh. It was a good Wario World-like game. So yeah, gotta give it to that. Alright, next up here. Best mobile game. I've not played any of these, but how can you root against Hello Kitty? Best VR AR. I don't play VR games, so I gotta skip this one. Best action game. I really want to give it to Hi-Fi Rush, but I loved Armored Core 6. That game was so good. Best action adventure, I gotta go with Tears of the Kingdom. It's so good. You're gonna hear me say that a lot about a bunch of these games, but Tears of the Kingdom, Lowdown was so good. Just I could disappear in that game for like hours and hours on end, just exploring, beating up a bunch of enemies, fusing new weapons. It was great. But then Resident Evil 4 is like a close second. Like okay, so I beat these games. I beat this game once, but I spent the most amount of hours on it. I beat this game 5 times because the action was so good. Best RPG. This is probably what's gonna win it, but my vote is gonna go for Sea of Stars. like I said, I love this game a lot. I'll try to get a review out for it here within like the next month or two. I'm about to get super freaking busy. But I love Sea of Stars, man. That game is great. FF16, really strong contender. Lies of P, I've heard a lot of great things about. It'll be on my kind of to check out list here for next year. Oh, and one last thing while we're here on Best RPGs. This is the only award that Starfield was nominated for, which is insane for me that a Bethesda game would only get one award nod. Best Fighting Game. Happy to see the comeback that this one had, especially after the first one was considered like pretty mediocre. So good to see that they were given a bigger budget and, you know, fleshed out a little bit more. The one thing that bugs me the most is why they only have half of the Ninja Turtles. They had Michelangelo and Leonardo in the first one. Now they have Raphael and Donatello. But put them all or none, man. Like they're brothers. They fight together. Don't separate them. But my vote is Street Fighter 6. This game is ridiculously good, and when we get back to Game of the Year, like this is, I believe its Metacritic score is at like a 92, and it didn't make the shortlist for, or not the shortlist. It didn't make the final list for Game of the Year. Like we have a stupidly stacked year. Best Family Game. This game looks like a lot of fun, and it's nice to see like an actual platforming Disney game that's not a remaster or a remake. I've seen my friends play Party Animals. I have not played it, but that looks good. Pikmin 4, solid. Sonic Superstars. I'll check it out eventually. I've not had the chance to play it. It's gonna go to Mario though. I think if Mario Brothers Wonder is going to win one award, it will be this one. Because Mario is in a lot of... It's nominated for a few awards, but I don't think it's the odds-on favorite to win too many except this one. Best Sim Strategy. This one I gotta go for Pikmin 4. But it is nice that Advance Wars got some love. That game was a victim of... This game was a victim of terrible timing. It should have released last year, but, you know, real world stuff came in there. City Skylines 2 could beat Pikmin 4. I would not be shocked at that. Fire Emblem Engage. It's got its fans. I'm kind of stayed away from most of the phone games from Nintendo. And Company of Heroes 3, I personally have not heard too much, so I can't really give you an opinion on that. Best Sports and Racing, I have not played any of these, so I cannot in good conscience vote. Best Multiplayer, great co-op, IR, or person-to-person, great for campaigns, hilarity, Diablo 4. One of the few awards Diablo 4 is nominated for, Party Animals, is a blast, but I gotta give it to Street Fighter 6. Gotta give it to Street Fighter 6 for sure. For sure. Alright, best adaptation. Okay, this one, coincidentally enough, is one that I think this is the obvious favorite to win it all. But like ever since like it aired, it's kind of dropped off. Like there's not really as much conversation about it, so potentially Mario Brothers movie could come out of nowhere just because it's more on the mind, and this is currently the second highest grossing movie of the year. Twisted Metal, I heard, was surprisingly good. Not Gran Turismo. And then Castlevania Nocturne is the most recent thing to come out, and I've heard nothing but amazing things. If I have to give my vote, I would give it to the Mario Brothers movie, just because that's the one thing I've seen all the way through. But I think the odds-on favorite to win is probably going to be The Last of Us. Like 100%, I think that's going to be the big one, just because it's like the most critically acclaimed out of all of these on here. Most anticipated game. All of these, I'm really looking for. Well, I don't know too much about Outlaws. Ubisoft, it's kind of lost me a bit. I don't know if I can really trust them too much, but this is going to be baller. This is going to be baller. This is the sequel to my game of the year in 2020, but it's Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. The ending of 7 Remake just left you going, this is an actual, they're taking the word remake literally, so I'm really excited to see what they're going to go with in the sequel. Excited to see the rest of Final Fantasy VII's world. I'm excited to go to Cosmo Canyon. I'm excited to go to the Golden Saucer. I'm excited to go to Ganganga. I'm excited to go visit all these places and not be confined to Midgard, which there's nothing wrong with Midgard. I thought Midgard was beautiful, but just being able to explore the world of Final Fantasy VII is... Oh man, that game is going to be killer. And we get it within like the first 2 months. Don't know any of the content creators. I don't know anything about esports. So we're just going to pass these through. Sorry if I'm not spending too much time. In good conscience, I have not seen anything but Evo. But what I saw of Evo was an amazing, amazing time. So I'll vote for it, even though, like, I haven't seen anything else. It's not really fair. But, dude, Evo 2023 was so much fun to watch, man. And I think that was the last category. Yeah. So we're going to go back to Game of the Year here. Once again, I thought all the choices were really good. You really couldn't go wrong with that. But there are like 5 other games that you could have put in here, and I wouldn't have blinked an eye. Like, I think out of all these, Baldur's Gate and Tears of the Kingdom, just based on critical score, how much people have posted about them, the content that's being made, like the staying power that those two have had, like I think those are the only 2 you gotta keep in there. But for the other ones, there's so many other games that you could have put in here. Like, we don't have Final Fantasy 16 nominated in here. We don't have Sea of Stars nominated in here. Like, this is one of the first years I can think of that we don't have, like, well, no, because Layround Studios is a pretty indie game, but like they don't consider Baldur's Gate an indie game. It's like the first time we don't have a game that's nominated for Best Independent Game up for Game of the Year. It's pretty crazy. We don't have Starfield. Again, Starfield only had 1 nomination this year, which is, again, crazy for me. And then just gonna take a quick look at some other game, just some like highly rated games in here. I'm not gonna count remasters. But you could have made a case for freaking Dead Space potentially getting a nod in here. But like looking at, again, some of these like higher rated games that didn't make the run on here. Dave the Diver, which is one that a lot of people are going crazy over, didn't get the nod. Diablo 4 didn't get a nomination. And that game was pretty popular. Hi-Fi Rush is another one I thought for sure was going to get in there. But it did not make it in there. Talos Principle 2, 89 on Metacritic. Yeah, on OpenCritic, not nominated. Pikmin 4, a game that people think is the best Nintendo game release this year, didn't get the nod. Octopath Traveler 2, one of my favorite games this year, not get the nod. Like, there's a lot of really freaking good games that did not get the nod this year, and it's hard. It's hard. And if there's ever a year where people could use the same thing that the Game Awards should take after the Oscars and not have a set number, or at least increase the number to 10, this year might have been the one. But man, it's tough. It is tough. Man, there's so many great games released this year. But for me personally, my game of the year, I gotta go with Tears of the Kingdom, man. I had a lot of fun. Close second is the Resident Evil 4 remake, but this game was phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. But the odds-on favorite to win Game of the Year is Baldur's Gate 3. So we'll see. We will see what they go with here at the Game Awards here, December 7th. I had the pleasure of going to the Game Awards last year, and I had an absolute blast at it. The video game orchestra is the best part of the show, and hearing the medley for these games soundtrack is going to be amazing. It's a shame we're not going to hear Final Fantasy 16 in the medley, because that would have just blown people away. I feel like it's going to be tough. I wouldn't be shocked if it's like a neck and neck race for what wins Game of the Year. And yeah, it's gonna be great. So yeah, that has been me talking about the Game Awards. It's gonna be a wild month from now up until the award ceremony itself. There's here at Anime Secrets, we are not quite ready to do a list like this quite yet. I personally like to wait the entire calendar year to go through before settling down on a Game of the Year. I've been slacking the last couple of years. That's my apologies on not putting out a video for the Game of the Year, but I'm gonna try to get one out this year. We usually post that list like first week in January, because again, want to make sure that all the games are out, that people have had a chance to try to play most of them, or at least play the ones they like or they wanted to play. And be on the lookout for that. Be on the lookout for a couple new videos we'll be putting out this week. It'll be a great time, and yeah. Let us know down below what you think of the Game Awards. What game of these up here do you think is going to win Game of the Year? Were any of these your personal Game of the Year? And what game do you think got snubbed the most? Let us know. Post everything down below and check us out. And y'all have a good night. Take care.